All right, guys, appreciate you being here. So today we're going to talk about how to double the income in your current overage or surplus funds business. Okay. As always, so these are what I'm going to share with you today, guys, is basically things that I wish I had known from the very beginning. Because had I known what I'm going to share with you today, I probably would have gone a different route. And I probably would have actually been much more profitable in my business. Okay. So basically, this is kind of a presentation where you can learn and don't make the same mistakes that I made out of ignorance, because I left thousands of dollars on the table simply because I was not aware of these things, or I felt like that I couldn't do these things because I didn't have the upfront cash to do them. But they were all false stories. They were all just negative beliefs. And so hopefully you can learn from my screw ups so that you can be more profitable. And that's ultimately, one of the purposes of why I share what I share, right? Because I don't want you to leave thousands of dollars on the table. I want you to be profitable as quickly as you can so that you can achieve the goal, right? I mean, obviously we all want to make money, but we don't do it for the money. We do this because of what the money can give us, whether that's freedom from a job that you hate, like it was in my case. Maybe you just want to eliminate some debt in your life. You want to be able to have more time to spend with your loved ones. You want to be able to provide and fund experiences and create memories that you may not be able to do right now. So my purpose is to help you get there quicker. And that's it. So without further ado, let's get right into it. What is this blue line right here? What is that? That's kind of annoying. So I talked about that. Okay. Here's the one thing that's really cool about what I'm going to share with you. If you're familiar with the overage profitability formula, you don't have to change anything. You don't have to do anything different. It's the exact same steps, just in a different order. Okay. So the way to double the income in your business is ultimately to work pre-overages. Okay. Now, what are pre-overages? This is a term that I developed. It's basically helping homeowners before an overage even exists. In other words, you're helping people prior to the tax sale, prior to the foreclosure, therefore pre-overage. Overage hasn't been created yet because the property hasn't gone to the sale, but there's a potential an overage could be created. So hence the term pre-overages, okay? So when we're talking tonight, all we're talking about is, we're talking about helping people before the tax sale, before the foreclosure, helping them avoid having to go through that situation, okay? If you're new here, just as a recap and as a review, a tax sale and a foreclosure, what's the difference? Okay, you've heard me refer to TOs and MOs, tax overages, mortgage overages. What's the difference? Tax overages are generated from tax sales. What is a tax sale? A tax sale is when a property owner does not pay their property taxes, and the county then auctions off that property to the public to recoup what is owed to them. That is a tax sale. Mortgage foreclosure, mortgage overage. Mortgage foreclosure is when somebody quits paying their mortgage payment to the bank. The bank then comes in, they hire a law firm or they go through the court to foreclose, and then the bank will auction off the property to members of the public. And then investors bid it up, they pay more than what's owed to the bank, that creates overages. So when we're talking about pre-overages, we're talking about before the sale, before the tax sale, before the foreclosure. Now, when you're doing pre-overages, it's the exact same steps as the overage profitability formula, okay? There's 5 steps. If you're taking notes, you can write this down. Step number one is to create your leads. So create leads, 1. Step 2, conduct research. Step 3, contact. Step 4, contract. Step 5, profit. So C4, 4 C's plus P. That's the formula. C4 plus P. Create leads, conduct research, contact, contract, profit. That's what we use to help people recover overages. The formula is the exact same with pre-overages. The only difference, we are conducting that process before the tax sale or the foreclosure, not after. Okay, so that is the difference between recovering overages and then working these pre-overage deals. Okay, so with pre-overages, there are 2 strategies. You're either going to, 1, flip the deed, meaning you're going to get the deed for the property and you're going to sell that to an investor. We're not talking about buying homes and then making them pretty, although you could do that, but that's not what we're talking about. We're getting a deed to the property and then we're selling that to an investor. Okay. Another strategy is cash flowing the property. Now, we're not going to dive too deep into this. I'm going to have a secondary training in a couple of weeks where we're just going to talk about how you can cash flow properties, how you can help homeowners that are underwater or they don't have any equity in their home. And if there's no equity in a home, there's not going to be an overage from that property. But we'll talk about that here in a minute. So again, process is the same. If you want to take a picture of this, you can. When we're creating our leads, there are 2 types of leads that we're going to go after, 2 types of pre-overage leads. Number 1 is a property with equity. That's the first type of lead. And the second type of lead is a property with no equity or negative equity. If you're not sure what equity means, equity, guys, is the value of a property minus the debt that is owed on it equals the amount of equity. So really fast example. If I own a house that has a market value of 200,000, meaning if I put the house up for sale, more like, the reality is that most buyers would pay 200,000. Okay. And that's market value. But if I have a mortgage for 150, so I owe the bank 150, then my equity in the property is how much? 50,000, right? So it's the value minus the debt equals the equity. Now, there are some homes where they have negative equity, meaning they owe more than what their property's worth. And this is important to realize, guys. When a home goes to auction, not all homes that go to auction generate overages. It's actually, I would say it's in the minority. I'd say less than half of properties that go to foreclosure or tax sale actually generate an overage. The rest of them are either not worth it, nobody bids on them, or they're underwater, meaning the homeowner owes more than what the property is actually owed. But there are ways to profit from those types of properties, okay? So that's first step. The second step, when we're doing our research, the same as overages, guys. What we're going to do is we need to find out, okay, number 1, who's the owner of the property? Who do we need to talk to? Who do we need to make an offer to? Who do we need to help, basically? When we're doing overages, we find the owner so that we can find the person entitled to the overage. In this case, we're finding the owner to offer them solutions to avoid the tax sale or the foreclosure. Then, when we're also doing our research, we also need to know, okay, how much debt is owed on this property? Make sense so far? Are you with me, or am I going too fast? Let me know in the chat. I'm going to grab something real quick so my computer doesn't overheat. Is everything, is what I'm explaining to you guys making sense so far? Yes, yes, yes. Understood. Okay, crystal clear. Okay, cool. Awesome. Perfect. Thank you guys. So we talked about step one, we talked about step two. Step three, again, is just contacting the owner. But instead of contacting them to tell them they have money owed to them, we're contacting them before they lose their home to a foreclosure or tax sale. And methods remain the same. You know, we use phone numbers, you know, we cold call or we text, send an email, you can send letters, you can use social media. The methods of contacting remain the same. I will say this though, guys, when you're working pre-overages, it's a lot easier to find the leads. It's a lot easier to get lists. And why is that? Well, you've probably, if you've worked the overage business, you've probably run into maybe some snags with the county. Maybe they don't want to divulge information to you. They don't want to give lists to you. And do you all know why that is? Here's the reason if you don't know. Most of you probably know, but if you don't know, the reason counties are not, friendly sometimes when we're trying to get information to recover overages is because they have an interest in that money, right? If these homeowners don't come forward to claim their funds, well, the county gets to keep their money or the state. And so it's in their best interest to make it hard for those folks, to make it hard for people like us to get that information. So you run into some roadblocks with overages, right? However, if you're working pre-overages, easy to get a list. You can buy them, they're public knowledge. It's really easy. I'll show you a couple examples. So the contact, and that's the other thing too, is it's easier to make contact with the homeowner. Why? Because, well, we know where they're living. We know where they're at. Whereas sometimes after the foreclosure, they're gone, they're off the radar. We don't know where they are. And as I'm sure, sometimes it's tough to find them after the foreclosure, okay? So that's a benefit of working pre-overages as well. Easier to find people, make contact with them, and easier to get lists. Contracts are going to be a little different, but it's the same process. You just get them signed. And then profit is getting the deed and selling it to an investor or cash flowing the property, which is a whole nother training. Today, we're just going to talk about selling the deed, flipping the deed for a profit, okay? Now, this strategy is still a win-win. It really depends on the homeowner, but the good thing about this is the homeowner gets some money up front. And then we also, what we do is we give them money up front to help them. And then when the deal closes, we give them more money, whatever it is that we agreed upon. This is helpful. And I'm going to show you a case example where this actually would have been better for a client of mine. But the money up front allows them to start fresh, relocate, find a place to rent or whatever. And it also eliminates the chance that they could lose everything, because let's say, for example, now it's unlikely this would happen, but if there is a property with equity, most likely somebody's going to buy it at the auction, right? Because there's a lot of real estate investors out there. But let's say, for example, there is a property with equity, it goes to auction, and for whatever reason, it falls through the cracks and nobody bids on it. In that scenario, the homeowner has lost it all. They've lost their equity. They've got nothing to show. They didn't get any money. They literally lost everything, even though they had equity in the home. And so we don't want that to happen. The other thing is it avoids them having a foreclosure on their credit. Okay. And here's the key thing, and one of the main takeaways that you should get from this training. When you work pre-overages, you have now created a competitive advantage for yourself. How have you done that? Well, number one is you're reaching out to these folks prior to the auction. And so you've already done the bulk of the legwork. If you've made contact with them, if you're established communication, and if let's just say, for example, you can't work a deal prior to the foreclosure and the house goes to auction. And let's say it sells for substantially more than the debt and there's an overage there. Well, if you already know what the debt is and you've already made contact with the homeowner before the auction, and then you just see and look how much it sells for, you now are the person, you are the first person to know that an overage is available. And so now you can go back to the homeowner and say, hey, I spoke to you a week or so ago. We wanted to help you before the foreclosure. I understand we couldn't get something together, but listen, your property sold for this. I can help you recover some funds. Would you be interested in that? So now you're the first person contacting them. You could contact them the same day as the auction. And this creates a competitive advantage. And this is important, guys. This is whenever you can find a competitive advantage, utilize it. I'll let you in on a little story real quick. When I started doing this full time, what I was noticing was other people doing overages in my market, they were waiting until the overage was listed in the court records. And so I asked myself, how can I get that information before it gets to the court? And I said, well, if I can monitor the auction in real time, either by being there in person or having someone be in person for me, or by making contact with the firm that conducted the sale and getting that information before it gets to court, well, then I can make contact with people. And so that's what I would do. That's what I started doing is I started creating relationships with the firms, or if it was a local deal, I'd go to the auction and I would sit there and I would write down the info. Okay, here's the opening bid. Here's what it sold for. And as soon as the auction ended, guess what I would do? I'm on the phone. I'm calling them, or I'm knocking on their door if they're local to me. Now that's aggressive, right? You don't have to do that. But I tell you that story to impress upon you that if you do pre-overages, you now know when overages are created and you know them very quickly. So you don't have to wait for a list to be published. You don't have to wait for the information to be published on a website or something, because you already have it. You have the information. Does that make sense? Light bulbs going off. Can you see how that would be beneficial in your overage business? If you already know who the owner is, you already know how much debt is there, and you've already made contact before the overage is even created, how much likely are you to get overage deals signed if you're the first person to know that information? Does that make sense? Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Yep. Okay. Yep. If you've already established a relationship, the odds are in your favor. Absolutely. All right, cool. So that's why it's important to consider the pre-overages, okay? Now I mentioned this already. There's two strategies to work pre-overage deals. One is to flip the deed, which we're going to be talking about. Number two is to cash flow the property, which there's a whole nother training on that. We're not going to cover that today, okay? Okay, so flipping the deed. How does this work? I'm going to walk you through the process. Step number one, you're going to create your lead, which means you're going to locate properties that have equity in them and that are scheduled to go to a tax sale or a foreclosure, okay? So again, equity is where the property is worth more than the debt owed on it, okay? Minimum amount of equity, that's up to you. Obviously, the more equity, the better. The more equity there is, the higher the likelihood that an overage will be generated, okay? So as far as criteria, that's determined by whatever you want to pursue. You know, I would just make sure that there's at least $50,000 in equity to make it worth your time. So meaning if the home is worth 200,000, then I'm not going to pursue anything that has a debt of more than 50,000 or 150, excuse me. That's just me. That's just me. I would want to look at something that had at least $50,000 worth of equity or higher. But you can do whatever you want. Once you've located those properties, and the cool thing about that, guys, there's softwares out there that you can buy that will pull those lists for you. Technology it's making things easier. I just wish it would catch up to the overage side of things, but it is what it is. So you locate your list of properties, then you conduct your research, okay? Who owns the property? That's easy. You can use public records. Find out what the debts are on the property. Also easy because you use free public records. You can contact the owner, call them, send a letter, whatever, make your offer, sign paperwork. You're going to have to give them an upfront down payment. So this is a con, right? This is one of the challenges of pre-overages. You're going to need money to make offers on properties. Or if you don't have money, like I didn't have money, you just need to have access to money. This is also known as a private lender, okay? And let me just share with you right now. There's always a catch, right, with these presentations. Here's the catch. Let me be honest with you guys and tell you, here's why I'm sharing this with you. Well, I do want you to have a competitive advantage. I want you to be successful. But I also would like the opportunity to fund your deals. I would like to be your private lender. Okay, why does that help me? Well, guys, when you are successful and when you do your deals, now you don't have to take this advice. This is just my 2 cents. When you make money that requires an active part, you know, it's an active income stream, meaning you have to work hard, right? When you receive those funds, whether it's from a job or from overages or a side hustle, whatever it is, always take a portion of that money and find ways to create passive income streams. Meaning, take the money you earn and then put as much money as you can into things that will allow your money to grow and allow your money to give you back money, AKA provide you cash flow, okay? That's how rich people become very rich, is they take the money they earn and then they make that money work for them. And so that's the catch of this presentation, guys, is I want to put some of the money that I've made to work. And the best way to do that is to become a private lender. So now you know the catch of this. So that's step 4, but that's also a benefit for you, right? Because if you don't have the money, that's okay. You can still do this. Just use mine or use someone else's. It doesn't have to be mine, but there's a lot of people out there that will give you their money so that you can do deals like this. Okay. So you're going to negotiate with them, you know, a price, you're going to give them some money up front. And then when you close out the deal, when you sell the deed, you're going to give the homeowner the rest of the money that you've negotiated. And you're going to sell the deed. Now, a deed is a piece of paper that conveys ownership in a property. Okay. So you're actually receiving ownership to these properties and then selling them. Okay. Now we're not fixing them. We're just selling them to other investors who they then can take them and fix them up and flip them and all that. So that's the process. Okay. So let's walk through this. Sorry, I'm just checking. All right, cool. So you should see in front of you, this is a little case study. So this is a deal I did, guys, a couple years ago. So it's an older deal, but this one stands out. I'll tell you the story on it. So this property sold at an auction. It sold for $440,000. And I didn't have all the numbers, but once it sold and once the bank was paid back, there was a leftover of $297,000. Now, there was some extra debt on the property. There was like a second mortgage, there was some liens. So after the other liens and the debt got paid off, that left us with this number, 203,000. Okay. That's what we successfully recovered for the homeowner. My profit on this deal was $10,000, which represents only about 5% of the total overage amount. And the reason it was 5% is because some other company reached out and was like, we'll do it for 5%. So the people were just like, if you'll match them, we'll go with you because we like you better. And I was just like, deal, you know, whatever. This is the lowest percentage deal I've ever done, is 5%. But I can't complain about it, right? Because
No,
I still made $10,000. So I'm not going to complain about it, but it's my lowest percentage deal I've ever done. Here's what I could have, I'm going to show you now. Here's what I could have done differently. And had I worked this differently, had I worked this the way that I'm telling you now, I would have made $28,000. So almost triple what I did. I'm going to share with you how that would have worked out. So what I could have done, and I just didn't, because 1, I was ignorant, and 2, I was like, well, I don't have the money, therefore I can't. And that's just lazy. I was being lazy. I could have easily found someone to lend me the money, but I was ignorant and lazy, and therefore, instead of making 28,000, I made 10. So if I had done this deal differently, if I could go back in time, here's what I would have done. I would have found this property prior to the auction, and I would have contacted the owner prior to the auction. And I would have said, hey, Mr. Owner, I'd like to give you some money up front in exchange for your deed. How's $10,000 sound? And then when I sell it, when I flip it to someone, how about you keep 75% of the profit and I'll keep 25%. And so what that would have looked like is, again, I shared with you, can you see my calculator now that I pulled it up? No, you cannot. Okay. So let me stop share screen, calculator. You can see it now. Oops. What did I do? Where'd it go? Share screen, calculator. Okay, there it is. Okay. So this property sold for $440,000. If someone was willing to pay $440,000 at auction, you think I could have found someone to pay that same amount? Absolutely. So 440,000. And let's say I negotiated, give them $10,000 up front and a 75-25 split when I flip the deed. So 440,000 minus the first mortgage. Okay, so the first mortgage, guys, the amount that was owed to the bank was 144,000. Okay. So that brings us down to 296. The second mortgage was 93,000. So that gives us 203,000. So that's, and I'm just making it approximate numbers for ease. So 203,000 is what our gross profit would have been. Now, if I negotiated that I take 25% of that, then I would have got 50,750. That's my gross profit. But I would have had some costs, right? I would have had my $10,000 I gave to the homeowner. Okay. And then there would have been, what I would have had to do also is I probably would have had to come up with the money that he was behind to bring the loan current, because that would, because you have to delay the foreclosure, right? It does you no good to get a deed and then lose it at foreclosure. So you have to stop the sale. And the way to do that is just to pay back the delinquent amount. You don't have to pay off the whole loan. You just have to pay off the amount that was delinquent. This guy's mortgage payment was around $1,100 a month. He got behind in January and it went to auction in September. So he had 9 months of payments. So that's 1,100 times 9 is what? 9,900. So that's probably what I would have had to come up with to stop the foreclosure sale. Okay. And then there probably would have been some extra fees on there that I would have had to pay, like attorney's fees, for example. So we'll call it $2,000. So after I recoup the money I would have to pay to delay the foreclosure, the money I'd give to the homeowner, and the attorney's fees, this is what my net profit would have been on this deal. Had I simply just known about this, and had I simply utilized this knowledge to better help the homeowner. But now that's great, right? Like I could have tripled my profit, but here's another reason why I chose this deal. When the homeowner lost his property on this deal, he had nowhere to go. Okay. So his family lived out of state. He didn't really have anyone here. The client was homeless. He was on the street. And guess how long it took us to get the money out of the court? It took us about 3 months. So my client was homeless for 3 months while we were working on recovering his funds. And so what's better? What would have been better? The way I did it? Or would it have been better not only for me, but also for my client had I known about this and done this strategy in the first place? Because $10,000 would have at least gotten him a hotel or a down payment on a rental unit. At least he wouldn't have been homeless in that situation. Okay. Now, he netted more. Like, let's be real. The way we did it, he netted more money, but he also lived on the streets for 3 months. So that's another reason why this strategy is important, guys, is because it helps you provide another service for the homeowner, for the claimant. Now, every deal is different. It just depends on what the deal is. You know, some homeowners, maybe they don't want to do this, and they'll just say, well, I'll take my chances at the auction. And if there's an overage, you can help me then. That's cool. That's fine. But at least now we are giving more options to people while simultaneously creating a competitive advantage for ourselves and other opportunities, other income streams. Because you could do a deal like this, a pre-overage deal, and then maybe you do an overage deal. Okay. Maybe you do one a month. And that's fine too, right? It's always good to have options. And the more you know, and the more ways you can help, the more like you are to profit. So that's a real life example that I wanted to share with you guys. And that's, you can see I lost. I mean, I didn't lose it, I guess. There's always a chance the homeowner could have said no to my offer. It is what it is. But you can see in that case study how it could have been different. All right, a couple questions. I'll answer these real quick. Let me get back to here. In that example I would have proposed a 75-25 split, Martin. This is a really good question. Is there a cap on the percentage amount you can ask for depending on the state for pre-overages? And the answer is no. And that is another reason to know about pre-overages, because there's no limit to what you can negotiate. Whereas in some states, there are limits on what we can charge, right? When we're recovering overages. Pre-overages, there's no cap. It's whatever you negotiate. So that's a pro. How do I know the home would have sold for 440? Because that's what it sold at auction for. Like that, I didn't just pull that number out. That's what it actually sold at the foreclosure auction. So I use that number because if someone in real life actually paid that, I'm sure I could have found someone else to pay that, or I could have found the auction buyer. What I would have done is, had I done this deal, I would have gotten a list of all the people that bid on properties at the auction, and I would have just called them or sent an email or gone to the auction and said, hey guys, I have this deed to this property. Is anyone interested? Here's what I'll sell it to you for. And those guys they'll eat that up all day. That's where you find your buyers, guys. The people that are bidding at auctions, those are people that have money or access to money. Those are the people that if you did a deal, a pre-overage deal like this, those are the people that will buy your deal because they've got money. They got money to spend because you have to have cash if you're buying at the auction. You just do, or access to cash. Okay. So, okay, I'll answer a couple questions, then we'll keep moving on. Split is whatever you negotiate. Good question, Tim. Would I use a lawyer on this? I would. I mean, I would definitely have a lawyer look over my forms, and then you could use a lawyer to do like a closing, meaning, to transfer the title over to you. But those are closings are pretty, I think, inexpensive for lawyers, maybe 500 to $1,000. But I mean, I know some guys that they don't use lawyers. They just sign the deed at the kitchen table, which if you've never done it, I wouldn't do that. I would go through a closing attorney. So. Good question, Ramon. You can reach out to them at any time. You can reach out to them as soon as they receive the notice of default. So notice of default, guys, is that's when the homeowner gets a letter from the bank saying, hey, you were behind on your mortgage. And it's usually when they receive the notice of default, it usually is when they are behind 3 payments to the bank. So they're 3 months behind at the time they receive the notice of default. So you could reach out to them anytime between then and the auction sale date. Good question. So we talked about that. How do you find real estate investors to buy the deed? Go to the auctions. Here's another, I'll give you another tip, guys. If you need buyers for deals, go to Google, type in your county, the name of your county, and the letters REIA. REIA stands for Real Estate Investor Association. That's basically like clubs that get together for monthly meetings, and they're investors that are looking for deals. They're looking for people to buy deals from. So that's another place you can find buyers, is your REIA. I'll get to that as far as lender, Mike. Good question. Can realtors do this? Yeah, I don't see why not. Just disclose you're a realtor. Yes, Freddie. Yep. If you find the auction before, like that's what I would lend the money for, is to pay the late mortgage payments and to stop the auction. So we'll get more into, yeah, you're not going to split the deal with me, guys. We'll get into that here in a minute. Yeah, there's another thing, guys. Your cash buyers, anybody that's actually the people that are creating the overages for us, the people that are buying these at the tax sale and foreclosures, those are your cash buyers. Do you need any licenses? No. You do need some paperwork? Yes. Oh, what just happened? Okay. I don't know what happened to the. All right, cool. So the second strategy, cash flow the property. I'll briefly go over this with you guys, but we're not going to go in depth with this. I'm going to do another training here in a couple of weeks on this. The second strategy is if you're looking at properties that have no equity or negative equity, they're scheduled to go to foreclosure. You're going to want to look at properties that have a high rental rate, meaning a property that you can rent out for, I'd say $2,000 or more. You can do it with lower end rents, that's fine. But if you're going to actually do it, I would propose look for properties that could rent for $2,000 or more. Same steps. You're going to find out who owns the property. You don't have to figure out the debt. Well, you'll know it's underwater because you'll see the debt. You contact them. You're going to make an offer to the owner, and what you're going to do is you're actually going to rent it from the homeowner, and then you're going to sublease it to someone else. We'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. And then you cash flow the property. Okay. Basically, the strategy allows you to collect, short-term rentals, but you're not actually buying any property. You're not becoming an owner. It's a strategy to generate semi-passive. I say semi-passive because it does take some effort and work on the front end to locate and to work out the deal with the homeowner. But then once you do, then you receive rental checks. So I'll show you an example right now, guys, of a deal that I actually did with a mentor of mine of a property. And every month I get a check for $375 on a property that I don't own. Now $375 is, it's not wow, but what if you had 10 of those? That could be some serious money, or just focus on areas that have a higher rental rate, so, but we're not talking about that strategy today. We'll talk about that in coming weeks, but that's a preview. So again, guys, why am I sharing this? Well, I want you to be profitable. I want you to have a competitive advantage. If you're able to get the info before the auction, and then you're able to know overages as soon as possible after the auction, you've moved upstream, from the rest of the fishers. You're upstream, therefore there's more fish up there because there are less fishermen up there. Makes sense? So that gives you competitive advantage, which helps you be more profitable, easier to get lists, easier to make contact with the homeowners because they're living at the home usually. And I didn't actually mention this, but when you do pre-overages, you don't have to convince them that it's real, right? You don't have to convince them that there's money available for them. They are well aware of the auction, and they're well aware of the fact that they could lose their home. So it becomes very real. You don't have to convince them that it's not a scam like you do in overages. And I believe that a lot of people will need these types of services in the future. Okay. So, and then of course, what's in it for me? Well, I'd like the opportunity to fund your deals. So, which is also good for you because you don't need any money. So that's why I'm sharing it. Now, here's the thing, guys. My expertise is in overages. That's what I know. And that's also what I've done. That's what I'm experienced in. Okay. And so I'm teaching the concept from a high level view because I understand it and I understand how it works, but I'm not going to teach you the how-to of these strategies because frankly, there are other people that are more qualified to do that than I am. Like, I did not discover these. I learned these from other people. Okay. So I don't want to teach something, even though I could teach this, I don't want to teach something, at least the how-to portion. I don't want to teach the how-to if I haven't done several deals myself. Okay. So rather than me like creating a course or something, like I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to refer you to the people that I learned these strategies from. Okay. And then if you do deals with them, they will give me the opportunity to fund those deals. Okay. So that's what's in it for me and all that good stuff. And what's in it for you. So we went over deed flipping today. In a couple of weeks, we'll cover the cash flow strategy with properties of little to no equity. That one will actually be more of an interview. I'm going to bring on one of my coaches, and we're going to conduct an interview. Okay, so you can ask him questions directly. So here's the deal, guys. I'm referring you to someone that I learned this from, someone that I have a lot of respect for, someone that has been in the business longer than I have. He's much older, therefore much wiser than I am. Okay. So he's got a program on this. I'm just offering. What I did is I reached out to him and I said, hey, I've gotten your stuff. I think there's going to be a need for people to learn what you're teaching here in the future. I wish I had actually done his program. If I had gone through these programs in the beginning, I'd be in a much different place today, but it is what it is. I took a long path. And so I was just like, if I introduced your programs to my audience, could you give them a deal or anything like that? And he accepted. He said, yeah, we could do that. So I'm not offering my programs, I'm offering his programs. So here's the thing. There's two programs, guys, that my coach and mentor is offering. There's the Deed Flip program, Deed Flip 30. Some of you know who this is. Some of you have heard of him. Okay. His name's Sean. Some people don't like him. He comes across as kind of rough and impatient, but honestly, I have a lot of respect for him because he practices what he preaches. And that's how I like to be as well. Like, I don't teach my overages from simply study. When I teach my overages and my methods, I teach it from my experience. And Sean does the same thing. Okay. So what ends up happening if you go through his program, what you do is you'll refer any deals to him. He'll give me the opportunity to fund them, and then they partner with you on the deal. There's a couple of programs, so you can partner with them or you can do it on your own. You don't have to partner with us. But there's a couple of programs. One, you just find the lead and you do the research, and that's all you have to do. And they'll give you 15% of their net profit, which usually is, I think it's like 30K is their average net profit. So 15% of that, I guess, is 4,500. So, or if you want to find the lead, do the research and make contact, they'll give you 30% of their profit. So, but that's only if you want to partner. You could also just do it on your own. That's fine too. Okay. So if you're interested in that, guys, go to deedflipping.com. I negotiated some, it's a good offer. It's a good discount, honestly. I was actually surprised that he allowed me to present this to you guys at a low price. So the prices are at deedflipping.com. He also was like, I'll throw in some bonuses for you guys. And I was like, okay, bonuses are good. We like bonuses. So he was like, I'll give you 2 bundles. There's 2 bundles to choose from. And he threw in a bunch of other programs that he has. So he's got these 2 main ones, the Deed Flip and the Deed Flip 30. And then okay. Somebody unmuted themselves. And then he's got some other bonuses. So there's another program called National Redemption. This program is actually really good if you're working in areas where there's a redemption period. Okay. A redemption period is where the homeowner, their property sells at the auction but they have a certain amount of time to buy it back, to keep it. Okay, these are places like Texas, Georgia, Indiana is another one. Okay, so in redemption periods, guys, when a homeowner loses their property at a tax sale, but there's a redemption period, they still have a right to sell that property during the redemption period. And so you can work properties during that time, which is kind of cool. There's also like a Florida deed flip program, which is Florida specific, which is actually, I'm going to show you guys. Let's see if this website works. Can you still see my screen? Okay, cool. So here's an upcoming auction. So this is scheduled for, looks like October 20th. And you can see some of these properties that are going up for sale. So here's what's interesting. So this number right here, that's the opening bid. So that's the amount owed, right? But here's the assessed value. So this is what the county believes this property is worth. Now, I don't know what mortgages are on this property, but they owe $16,000 in back taxes. The county says it's worth $400,000. Do you think there's some equity in that property? Do you think there'll be an overage from that property? What if you already established communication with the homeowner before this auction even happened? Kind of powerful. Here's another one. This one's smaller. So this one, they owe a lot, right? They owe $104,000. But it's valued at 168. So that one's got some decent equity in it. Okay. And there's quite a few of these. Here's a smaller one. This one's only worth 37, but they only owe 45. So there's equity in that one. Same with this one. They owe 7, but it's valued at 71. Here's the crazy thing too. The assessed value, like this is the count, what the county, they'll value properties to determine, you know, how much they should charge in property taxes. Usually the assessed value of a property is actually lower than the actual market value, if that makes sense. So there's deals out there. And it's pretty easy, right? Pretty easy to look up. So these are all bonus programs. They've got the Florida program. They've got something called Game Changer, which is focusing on mortgage foreclosures. They also do something for North Carolina, which North Carolina is interesting because in North Carolina, they have something called a 10-day upset period, meaning an auction happens and then there's a 10-day period where somebody can come in and offer a better bid. And so that can actually, and there's no limit to how many times someone can come in and outbid the previous buyer. So it delays foreclosures for a long time. So there's an opportunity there. They also have so a lot of you have asked me about bankruptcy funds. You guys know that I refer someone to you for bankruptcy funds. They have a different method for working bankruptcy funds. You're not recovering funds for creditors, you're actually becoming the creditor. Meaning you're getting the debt and then you're able to file as the claimant on your own for the funds. It's actually very, very unique. There's another program they offer called the hybrid, which this is just if a homeowner has gone through a bankruptcy and let's say they refuse to work with you, if they've gone through a bankruptcy, you can basically tell the court that there's an overage available and they'll give you a referral fee for that. I've never done that myself, but that's a program they have. Some of you are interested in state funds, recovering state funds, or you've tried to recover state funds. They have a program for that, so you don't have to get registered, which is pretty cool. Then they've got some other programs, bidding at HOA auctions. So HOA stands for Homeowners Association. Did you guys know that overages can be created from HOA auctions? Yeah, doesn't happen a lot, but I've seen it happen, and I've recovered overages from HOA auctions. There's also judgment recovery. So judgments, if you guys know, a judgment is when you win a lawsuit, and then you can go and file a claim for any overages. Very unique, a little more advanced. But I actually love to partner on those types of deals. They also talk about tax liens. Then there's also like some wholesaling programs. And this program, their zombie business. This one is very niche, and I'll partner with you on these ones. So any of you that are in my overage program, if you ever see a LLC that's owed an overage, happy to partner with you on those. Okay, and happy to walk you through that process. But you can also acquire real estate by purchasing businesses that are no longer in business, but that may have owned real estate. Very unique. So yeah, there's a couple different options for you guys. Whoa. A red line there out of nowhere. So check out deed flipping. He said he'd only open it for the weekend. So it's going to close on Monday, October 4th. And the programs are PDF ebooks. So it's not, if you have my course, it's not the same as mine. It's more, you've got to be able to read like PDFs, and it's kind of, they're good programs. They're just books. Okay. They're ebooks, and they do have some videos in them. So that's pretty much it, guys. I'll share with you a little video that Sean made. It's only about 5 minutes, and then that's it. I'll answer any questions you have, and we'll go on from there. But before we do that, did you guys learn something new? And did you find this training valuable at all? Let me know in the chat. All right, cool. Glad. It sounds like you guys got some value out of this. So I'm gonna play this 5-minute video that Sean made. It's just gonna recap everything we went over today. And then I'll answer any questions. If you guys need to log off, that's fine. Or if you already know you want to be part of it, just go to deedflipping.com. It's a website that looks like this, deedflipping.com. In fact, I will put it in the chat for anyone that needs it. All right, let me maximize this, and we'll end with this, then we'll do Q&A.
You've been brought here because we have an association with Nick Fullmer. Nick has purchased our flipping programs in the past, and he knows the impact that that can have on your business and your bottom line. So the $1 million question is, you're working overages, maybe you're even successful at it. Why would you work flips too? First, working flips doubles your overage business income. I know that's a huge claim. I'm going to tell you how. It's way easier to get lists. It is the same concept in that you are capturing the equity from the home. The difference is you're doing it before the auction using our money. You don't have to convince them the money exists. You guys know how hard that can be. So here's how working flips is going to double your overage business income. Besides the fact that it gives you opportunity to go after property before the auction even hits, we're contacting them pre-auction. This is upstream. We're eliminating all the wrong numbers and addresses, even often having a conversation with them, and they will return your call when it comes time to retrieve overages. We have two different flipping programs, the National Deed Flip and the Deed Flip 30. We partner on both of them, or you can complete them by yourself. Do your own deals completely, guys. The National Deed Flip requires you simply research the debt and ownership on the property before the foreclosure hits and make sure it's the right owner. Send it into us. We will find the people, put the deal together, buy the property, and we will pay you 15% of our net on that deal. Just so you know, our average net's $30,000. The average payout on that is $4,500. The Deed Flip 30 pays you 30%, but in that one, you also have to call the people and make sure you have the right owner before turning that in. Obviously, both the programs also teach you to do it completely on your own. Second main reason you're going to double your overage business income is you guys need to listen to this. You'll be first to know of the overage. You've already researched debt and ownership. So when the property sells at the auction, you'll be able to tell there's an overage. Simply take the sales price less the debt, and you'll know there's an overage before anybody else. Imagine that, guys. Imagine knowing there's an overage immediately. You don't even need a list. This is without a list. You'll know immediately if there's an overage on the property. You're going to be the first in the door. It's easier to get lists. Lists of upcoming tax sales and mortgage auctions are readily available. The county or sheriff doesn't play dumb, saying they don't know what you're talking about with an overage list. And here's the other benefit with those lists. You have a set date to work with. The owners are under a time crunch. Time is on your side, guys. You don't have to worry about some set abandoned statute as far as how long the money can be claimed. You know exactly how long you have until the auction. Time is on your side, and they want to work with you. They are running out of time. Here's another big one, guys. You don't have to convince them the money exists. Guys, you know how hard that can be. We're buying the home and paying off the debt to stop the auction. The average payout on the Deed Flip 30 at 30% of an average of 30 grand is $9,000 to you. We'll let them live in the property past the auction date, giving them some money up front and more when they get out. Guys, no other investors do this, and it's a no-brainer for the owner. We're solving their problem, and we'll take homes in any condition. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Listen, check us out at deedflipping.com. You'll get an overview on all the programs and bundles we're offering. This is a one-time limited initial offer available only through Nick Fullmer, and he pre-negotiated the pricing of the bundles for you. You can't find this anywhere else cheaper. After reading the overview, go to that page, deedflipping.com. Click on products to see the overview is on there of all the programs. After you read that, if you have questions, hey, call me direct. My name's Sean. Call me Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern at 704-791-9398. Thanks. Have a great day.
All right. So there you go, guys. Here's a website, deedflipping.com. There's a little video of that also goes in more depth on all the programs. And then you just go to products and you can check out the pricing and all that good stuff. Okay. So again, it's only open through Monday, so it's open through the weekend. And one thing I want to mention, like, again, guys, I negotiated this for you. I believe this can really help you. I wish I had known this in the beginning of my overage journey, but it is what it is. No sense in complaining about it. If you do call Sean, please be respectful and don't utilize it as a free coaching call. You know, be respectful of his time. That's something that's very nice of him to do. So that's it, guys. I hope this was helpful. Hope you learned something new. Go to deedflipping.com. Take advantage of that offer that we were able to do. No, you don't need a code. You just go to the products page and you just select which bundle you want. Here's one thing I'd recommend, guys. It was very nice of him to include all of those bonus programs, like man, such a huge value. Like, you could probably sell each of those programs for $1,000 a piece, but you don't pay that. Like, it really is a good deal. But one thing I want to say, don't commit the mistake I did also of the shiny object syndrome, right? If you do this, I would just focus on the pre-overage stuff and just work that in conjunction with your overage business. Okay. Don't try to just go and don't try to do overages and then also do fix and flipping or also bankruptcy funds and state unclaimed funds. You'll just confuse yourself and you won't make any significant progress. Stay focused on the overage and just bolt on the pre-overage, because it's the same process. Whereas when you get into state funds, bankruptcy funds, or some of these other strategies, the steps are different. You have to learn a whole new process. Keep it simple. For those of you that are my students, you already know the process. Continue to use that process. Just do it before the auction. Okay. And when you've done some deals, when you've done a couple overage deals, guys, or you've done some pre-overage deals, then go visit the other stuff. Then go visit, the bankruptcy or the unclaimed funds or some of the redemption thing. That's a really cool one. But stay focused. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. All right. Okay. Let me go through, see if there's any questions. When are we going to do the other training? I think we're going to do it October 20th, if I remember correctly. I'll post a YouTube video, guys. Don't worry. I'll send it out. If you're on my email list, you'll get it. If you're in the program, you'll get it. Cool. Where can I find the replay? So the replay will be posted through the weekend, and then it'll be taken down Monday. Yeah, if you have questions for me about partnering on overages, guys, send me an email, nick@overagesyndicate.com. And make sure, if you're a student of the program, of my overage program, just go to section 7. There's all the criteria to submit a deal and the instructions to submit a deal are listed there. So check that out as well. Right now, I'm only partnering with students. Yep, you can view the replay on YouTube. Yes, the prices listed there are a significant discount, yes. Do you still have room in the gold program? We are 60% full on the gold program. So yes, we do have room, but we're 60% full. Is it okay to reach out to claimants and let them know of a possible overage once they receive their notice of default? You could, but the problem with that is you don't know how much it's going to be, right? So if you're going to do that, you might as well just get an overage list or just focus on the properties that already have gone to auction. All right, I guess that's all the questions. Cool, guys. I appreciate you jumping on. Hope that was of value, and we will see you in the next one. What's the gold program? Check out my YouTube channel. There's a video on it. It's a new offer I just launched to work with me, so you can check it out there. All right, guys, have a wonderful night. And tomorrow's Friday, so happy Friday tomorrow. We'll see you.